Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bobble Pod. We are on episode 22 today, and we're going to be talking about the social media landscape. Firstly, and as always, welcome to Bobble Pod. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, any of our streaming platforms, don't forget to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hello, YouTube. Don't forget to click on the bell button and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. And don't forget to leave comments and give your feedback. Today, I am joined by Fiona from FB Comms. Hello, Fiona. How you doing?
Hello, I'm grand. How are you?
Just for our listeners, do you want to do a little bit of introduction about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Fiona Bradley. I'm the founder and director of FB Comms content marketing agency. I was freelancing for a couple of years beforehand, and then in April took the company limited. We mainly cover social media, organic and paid. And I suppose the majority of what we're doing at the minute is B2B LinkedIn marketing.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of your content. I see it all the time on LinkedIn, and you can see I'm always liking and following. Sorry for stalking you, but finally I got you on our podcast. Enough likes will finally get someone onto your podcast. Why are you always liking? I want you to come to our podcast and talk about social media.
Love it.
So you're based in Leeds,
Yes.
aren't you? City centre?
Yes.
Fantastic. So like us, Leeds-based agency. So we've brought Fiona on board to talk about the social media landscape in terms of what's going on. So we're going to talk about a number of things today in terms of how is the landscape evolving, what we can expect in the coming months now that a recession's been announced by the Bank of England. What should you as a business owner, as a marketing department consider when it comes to social media? Our views on social media, both positive and negative. We were talking about this just before we started recording. And as everyone knows, Elon Musk bought Twitter. So we're excited to share our thoughts and views about that. So to begin with, how do you see the current social media landscape evolving right now based on your experience working within the platforms that you see?
It's much harder to grow organically on a lot of the platforms like Instagram and Facebook without having any paid media behind it. Influencers are turning to things like TikTok and Twitter and LinkedIn are so much easier to snowball reach organically. So if you're not including paid in a lot of your strategy, you're just not going to get seen by as many people unless you're using short form video content. Even LinkedIn now in their Creator Accelerator program, they're encouraging the, I suppose, new generation of LinkedIn to be sharing short form video on LinkedIn now as well, which is what I shared one this morning.
LinkedIn a while back introduced stories on video, but I just don't think it worked because they kind of removed that function away. So how is that going to impact how they use video?
It is still very, very in its infancy. You upload something, it's washed out, the brightness is on 200%. So I'm hoping that they release a few new features to make it a lot easier, or, you know, people have portrait shot videos for like TikTok and Instagram, and it'd be good if you could repurpose those on LinkedIn without it looking clunky.
We do that with our podcast. So, you know, anything we do as like a social activity, we push to our company page. If we have our podcast, we create snippets, and we normally put it on like TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So that kind of works quite well. What are the strategies you're implementing specifically? Because you talked about how you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. What are strategies you're implementing right now?
It's consistency, but then consistency within your content pillars. There's loads and loads of trends you can share, you know, before and afters till the sun goes down, and talk about personal branding specifically. But if you're following trends and going viral for things that have nothing to do with your business, I've followed quite a few people on LinkedIn. I see their content all the time, but I don't know what they do. So I wouldn't jump on to get in contact with them. So it is sharing personal content. So by the time someone jumps into your DMs, they already know who you are. Like they already know exactly what you offer. But if you're not really talking about exactly what you're doing, for who, what value you're providing, who are your clients, what are your results kind of thing, then it's just empty followers. It's really easy to grow on LinkedIn really fast, but it's easy to get the wrong kind of followers. There's no use having 17,000 followers that are all graphic designers from Ghana if you're an SEO agency.
Yeah, makes sense. What I really liked was your post, I think it was today, or it might have been yesterday, where you talked about how you shouldn't be doing every single social media platform. It can be a waste of budget. like we focus predominantly, and we know which channels work for us. We focus on growing our TikTok, our Instagram, and more just to push our company culture and how we work. But LinkedIn is our go-to platform because we are a B2B business like most out there. So what would you say to, our audience, our business owners, people that work in marketing departments, like in terms of where to focus their attentions on which social channels? What I'm trying to say is that the hot shots right now.
It depends what you're offering, I suppose. If you're a web agency and your website sucks, that's not a good look on you. If you're a social media agency, you want to be active on TikTok and Instagram because potential people that want to work with you are going to check those platforms out and they want to see this fun work culture, the day-to-day, the kind of clients you're working with, and you want them to be able to see themselves at your company. So our Instagram is a good, I suppose, recruitment tool, and it's basically just a brochure of what we do, whereas actual work to come in is predominantly LinkedIn and Twitter.
What balance do you find between organic and paid in terms of the work you're doing right now? Is it predominantly more one or the other?
Yes, the majority of it's organic, but pretty much wherever we've got an Instagram account running, paid alongside it. LinkedIn, don't do any paid, don't need to at the minute. It's so easy to get reach and snowball your content as it is, so you don't need to run ads on that platform. Twitter, we're keeping it ticking over as a customer services platform. I think, well, we'll probably talk about this in a minute, but a lot of people are stepping back from ads while they don't know what's going on anyway.
Yeah, so there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, which takes us on to the next question is Bank of England, as most people would have announced, is that we're in a recession. It's going to last around about mid-2024. They're saying it's going to be the longest recession on record. There is a cost of living crisis right now. There's a lot of incompetency. I have said it a lot. It's probably the word I say a lot, incompetency from the government that we've seen. What do you see or what do you expect from social media in the coming months? And what impact is the recession do you think is going to have?
Companies, especially smaller ones, are getting nervous. We're seeing clients cut back on their spending or asked to pause their contracts because they're nervous, and that's totally fine. But if marketing is how you're making sales and how you're making money, it doesn't make sense to switch that off. If it's something kind of complimentary or like a nice to have, you just like having all your employees like on LinkedIn and that consultancy go in, then, that makes sense to cut that cost. But there's loads and loads of content that people are creating about the recession who just completely aren't professionals in it. So I suppose there is misinformation out there. I think businesses need to be more savvy with their spending and look at their data a lot more intensely at what's actually working. You might get loads more likes and engagements off. We get such a low cost per click on Pinterest, but no, like people don't convert off there. They're on there for inspiration, then go find something similar elsewhere. Whereas Facebook is where the conversions are actually coming from, even if your CPM's higher.
Yeah, Facebook announced, what was it, a 20% drop off in revenue? Actually advertising revenue, which kind of shows where the market is right now. I always liked the Walmart CEO's response in the last recession in terms of when he was asked, what do you think about the recession? He said, I've thought about it and decided not to take part. And it's a mentality more than anything else. And it's harder. I totally agree with you. With small businesses, they have smaller budgets and more constraint, and they are restricted in terms of what they can and can't do. And they're the ones feeling the impact in terms of the cost to their business as well. So they have to look inwards. But unfortunately, there was a campaign by the government saying that businesses should look to reduce their prices, and in order to do that, cut back on marketing spend. And I've never seen such a stupid campaign from the government. And it was like, if you take part, you can have this icon as part of your advertisement and stuff. I was like, if anything, marketing is the answer right now. And it's hard to say because businesses might not have the money to invest. Some businesses do, but statistically and factually, what is shown is that businesses that continue to invest in their marketing, whether no matter what type of marketing it is, digital, offline, always come out of a recession stronger with more loyal customers and more growth and ideally more market share. Because just consider if your competitors are cutting back, it's an opportunity for you to gain market share where you couldn't. It's why Tesco became the number one supermarket in terms of market share, because whilst everybody was cutting back and having problems with their supply chain, I remember Sainsbury's used to be number one. Then it was Tesco because they really revamped. They really did digital transformation with their club card, tracking people around the store. Recession came. All the other supermarkets cut back on the spends. Tesco doubled down. And before you know it, 3 years later, they've got double the market size of any closest supermarket. And it's been a slog for Asda, Morrison's, Sainsbury's to catch them. Although they have, but it's been very, very difficult. Now you've got new entries into market like Lidl and Aldi doing really well. And that's because of the cost of living crisis. So they will continue to take market share off the bigger players as well. It's hard to tell businesses spend more. You have to look at what your pocket, I always say, allows. But I totally agree with you in that sense. It's like, you know, ideally you shouldn't really be pausing. Now's the time to take the risk to go big. Sometimes it's go big or go home, really. I would say if the outcome is that your business collapses anyway, and that's the expected forecast, do you want to long it out, or do you want to take the risk now whilst you have the opportunity to take the risk and assess and potentially pivot your business to other potential audiences? So bearing that in mind, what should business owners consider right now with their social media?
Getting their face on it. People want to work with people more than anything. We don't trust advertisements. We scroll past anything. We've got ad blindness now because there's so many. If you see logos or something that's overly branded online, you're just going to go past it. If you see someone's face actually talking to camera about why they give a crap about something, or, you know, testimonials or the actual employees or behind the scenes footage, that will pull on your heartstrings. That emotional connection, I think, is going to be the driver for the future, really.
It's that old adage that people buy into people as much as they do the services, doesn't it? I find that at Bobble that, you know, when we're talking and we're pitching, it comes so naturally for us to talk about certain elements. I don't know how you find it, that they're almost kind of sold from the conversation we have in terms of our expertise, that, you know, we give that confidence to move forward with. We were talking about this before the podcast, this question, and I think it's quite important. Do you think right now social media has a positive or negative impact on society?
It depends how you use it. It can be a place where you can find community that you won't necessarily come across offline. It can be a learning platform. Like, you can literally learn anything online. We were literally talking about this, how, you know, you can learn how to run Facebook ads, you can learn SEO, you can learn so many things because there's so many amazing creators that are sharing how to do things, how they did things. But there's so many correlations with Instagram use and TikTok use, depression, anxiety. It can be such a filtered platform. Even LinkedIn, you know, it's like sometimes a contest between who's making the most money, who's working the most hours, who's the hardest hustler in the game. And it's not healthy to be comparing yourself like that online all the time.
Do you think social media contributes to those issues, anxiety, depression, that stigma all around it?
If you're using it in an unmonitored way, if you're letting yourself doom scroll without setting, I don't even have social media apps on my personal phone. And on my work phone, I've got like 30-minute time restrictions. So I've got to go in, post, engage, and jump back off.
I don't do that. I need to do that now.
I'll show you how afterwards.
Show me how. Well, you know what? We'll do another video and put it on YouTube. This is how to limit your time on social media.
And I go through, and anyone that doesn't bring me joy in my feed or makes me feel a bit crap, or I just think, what the heck? Why are you talking about? I just unfollow them, I block it, and it makes it a lot better place for me to be online. But, you know, if you sat covered in biscuit crumbs on a Sunday night, watching Drag Race, scrolling and looking at people with abs promoting diet supplements, you're going to feel crap about yourself.
I like that. It's like you filter out what you listen to, what you block, what you don't. And we were talking about this before, and we'll get onto it when we talk about Elon Musk and Twitter. It's like you have the choice to listen and view content and the choice not to listen and view content. And I feel like those people that view content they don't want to watch are the ones that are creating the most noise and I'd say issues around particular content. It's like we all consume content suitable to each other. And it's like, just consume what you want to consume, ignore everything else. And I think that's where a lot of problems come in is everyone feels now that they have a voice because of social media. I was telling you this earlier, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I love it when we deliver great results for our clients and we're very creative. I love it when we're engaging with it in the right way. But I feel like a lot of the problems in society today are caused by social media platforms. And I feel like there's a bubble around social media. And I said this earlier, I was like, I feel like there's a big social media bubble and it's going to explode in the next few years. And it's almost going to be like an online social media civil war. And it sounds bad and it sounds scary. I don't want to daunt anyone who's listening. This is just my views and opinion based on just looking back at the last 10 years in terms of how social media, its uses and how people engage and their user experience in social media platforms changed over time. And I think social media companies need to take more responsibility completely. I don't think they do. I think they do enough to appease government or the people to say, oh, yeah, we banned this person because you said so. Oh, yeah, we're fact checking. But no, more needs to be done because there's so much messed up content out there that is still accessible. And it's like, well, how hard is it to block it or turn it off?
Like so many kids watching TikToks with competitions of who can live on a block of cheese for the longest. It's not healthy. And there are younger and younger content creators. And I think brands have a responsibility to not work with these kids who are like 13, 14 monetizing their platforms. Like they're still in school. They should be putting all that stuff out that's going to be online forever.
Yeah. I personally think schools should ban mobile phones. I don't think kids should be taken, whether you're in high school or not, whether people agree with me, disagree. I don't think they should because there was a survey done. I can't remember the name of the company. I will find the details and share it. And they asked kids in China what they wanted to grow up to be, inspired to be. And the natural response was, I want to be an engineer. I want to create this. I want to do this. It was like they were very career driven. The same question was asked in the US. I want to be an actor. I want to be a social media influencer. I want to be on YouTube. And I'm like, well, how many people want to aspire to be an engineer? How many people want to aspire to be, an analytics person? How many, we talk about, women in industry, women in tech, how many, they're not being influenced, I think, in the right way. They're being influenced and to see all these people become famous and rich and start making good money from social media. They think that's their answer to the future, but it has a lifespan. Not everyone's going to be Mr. Beast.
TikTok's not going to be around in at least its current form in the next, few years. Look at what happened to, what was that social media app that died off? This I can't even remember it.
Vine?
People just made rooms and talked over each other in it.
Clubhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've got it on my phone and I had it. And I liked the stigma around it because it was invite only and it was only iPhone. And the reason I was really sold on it, because I ended up in a room with Mark Zuckerberg. I was one of 5,000 people listening to him talk. Clubhouse is like, well, this is unreal. I'm getting insights from, the owner of Meta himself. And I was lucky to get into that room at that time. But I think I haven't really touched it this year because it just died off. The content just became BS. It just became irrelevant. I was going on to, I was like, no, I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to talk about that. And everybody's talking over each other. It was just really became annoying more than anything else. And I was like, no, done. Turn the notifications off. And we had a strategy to launch Clubhouse ourselves, but we didn't really do it. So there's a lot of platforms like Vine. So this is, I think the unrealistic element of specifically the younger generation is that you need to have different aspirations. Not to say that I'm not saying you can't do what you want to achieve. You should always go out and achieve what you feel like you can achieve, but don't be influenced by other people because the best performing influencers provide value. I think, in terms of the clients we work with. So if we're working with furniture clients, we want to go to people that are, top level interior designers, people that give advice that people follow and then go and buy off their recommendations. And that's where I think it works quite well. But I say it's just, it's the dangerous predicament that we're in terms of where it's going. And I just see like our kids are going to get left behind in terms of the areas that they should really focus on.
I can't answer that. I don't know. I mean, even when I was younger, like my job didn't exist 5-10 years ago, or when I was picking my options, Instagram wasn't even a thing. I didn't even have an iPhone till like 7 years ago. So it's going to be completely different in 5 years, isn't it? But I think as long as the kids are getting educated and they know that what they're putting out there is going to be out there forever.
Yeah.
And these brand deals might fall through. Not everyone can be an amazing dancer and actually make money off it. There's loads and loads and loads of creators, but that doesn't mean that they're making a living off it or that TikTok is going to exist in that form forever. And that's not, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, which is why I suppose we offer a few services. Like Instagram went down last week.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh God, everyone went nuts. Imagine if we're an Instagram agency.
We were like, we were seeing sort of drop off in performance because the ads that were going on Instagram weren't serving. We were just serving on Facebook. It was an absolute nightmare. And the client's like, we've seen a drop off. What's going on? I was like, Instagram's down. We can't do anything about it. Yeah. The last question before we round up is obviously in the news came out, Elon Musk bought Twitter. We were talking about this before. I just want to get your views on it.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm biding my time. I'm still using it personally. To be honest, a lot of the businesses that we're working with, we just keep it ticking over as a customer service platform. I'm not advertising on it. Advertisers are dropping off. Twitter's saying that its usage is the highest it's ever seen, but then talking to people, everyone's moving over to Mastodon. Are you on that?
No, explain it.
So I suppose it's newish. It's the closest social media platform like for like to Twitter. Is not even 1 million people on it yet, but that's the new thing that people are boycotting Twitter for, which I do think is a bit dramatic. Twitter's not going to die off. Everyone loves streaming, even, just the Bake Off feed. I live for it. So I'm going to stay on Twitter. I think as far as getting rid of the bots, he's got a really great point. There's up to 60% of web traffic is bots, and they're not there for good. They're using AI to create fake people profiles, which obviously he thinks influence the election results and spread misinformation. And, they just click through your ads and butcher your ad spend. So I think in terms of getting rid of the bots, yes, he's leading the way and other platforms should follow suit. The $8 a month fee to get your verification tick completely takes away from the whole point of the verification tick. It's just anyone with a credit card, isn't it?
I mean, I guess what was controversial when he said it's going to be $16 for someone who uses pronouns they, them. And I think that's a concern a few people have is like, is it like, this whole right wing, left wing? I'm always saying I'm centre, to be honest with you. I look at things logically. I look at the data, I look at the insights, and then make informed decisions. But I get it. And that's why I say there's a social bubble that's going to explode where it's going to be like people that see themselves on right wing against left wing, and it's just all going to come together on multiple platforms. I hope it doesn't, but a little fear in me feels like that's what might happen. And I feel like the stigma around Elon Musk, and there was a lot of fake news about people leaving. You see the two people that did the interview. Yeah,
and then apparently they've been asking dozens of people to come back. I think it's a totally messy piece of press, and in terms of how the platform's actually going to change, nothing's happened yet. And I don't believe anything I see on the news until I see it in my feed.
Yeah, I always say not until it's like on something like Sky News, we've seen news, and then, it's kind of like more legitimate. Then I was like, it's not really real. But, that's been a great conversation. I want to thank, obviously, yourself, Fiona, for joining. I know you're going to join us for another episode where we're going to be talking about seasonal social media tips for people to help you with the upcoming period. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And for anyone who's listening, we hope you found that useful. Again, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe across all our social media platforms. If you have any comments or questions for myself or for Fiona, don't forget to use the hashtags Mr. Bobble, hashtag Ask Bobble, or just hashtag Bobble Pod, and reach out to us on our platforms or on our website, www.bobblepod.co.uk. And we'll look forward to catching you on episode 23.